Hello, hello, round 3 of System of Equations. Today we're going to finish the substitution method. You learned kind of the first couple steps in the last video, and today we're going to kind of put everything together so we can find a solution to the system of equations. So go ahead and jump to page 7, and we'll start with our first example. So remember, our step 1 is to solve for one variable, whether we have an x equals or y equals. We need to make sure we have that. And thankfully in this example we do. So we don't need to solve for one variable because we have the y equals 6x minus 11. Well, as you know, since it's y equals, that means we want to plug those values in for our y in the first equation. Plug them into the first one. So when we substitute it into that equation, that's our negative 2x minus 3, and then here goes our parentheses, and our 6x minus 11, and then it equals negative 7. That's all from our original. So let's go ahead and distribute that negative 3 through, because we need to start solving for our x, because that's the only variable in the problem which we wanted. So we'll have minus 2x minus 18x, because you're doing negative 3 times 6x, and then negative 3 times negative 11 gets you a positive 33, and that is still equal to negative 7. Your next step is to combine your like terms. So we've got a negative 2x, and we have a negative 18x, so we have to combine those. You get a negative 20x, and then plus 33, equals negative 7. Well, we know our next step, step 3, is to solve for our variable. So our goal is to isolate x so we can see what it equals. So the first thing we need to do is move over the 33. And since it's positive, we have to do the opposite, which is subtract. So minus 33 on both sides. So you'll have negative 20x equals negative 40. Well, we still have to isolate this variable, so you got to do the opposite. So that's divide by negative 20 on both sides. So x equals 2. So here's our first value. We solved for one of the variables. That was step 3. And we got x equals 2. Well, now our goal is to solve for the other variable. Well, we know that our second equation was y equals 6x minus 11. Well, let's go ahead and plug in this 2 into this x. So we'll have y equals 6 in parentheses 2 minus 11. Well, 6 times 2 gives you 12. 12 minus 11 gets you 1, so y equals 1. We have our two variables solved for, and then lastly, we just have to write our answer as an ordered pair. So remember, it goes x, y, so it means our answer here is 2, 1. And this is our answer for this system. 2, 1. I'm going to go ahead and zoom out so we can look at everything. So our first step was to have y equals or x equals, which we do. Substitute that equation in. Solve for your variable, which we solved for x. And then plug that into one of your equations to solve for your other variable. And we got 2, 1. So let's go ahead and practice that again with our next example. So example number 2, what is the solution of the system? So our first step we know is to have either x equals something or y equals something. And we've got our y equals x minus 1. So we're going to go ahead and plug it into this y value here. So we'll have 2x minus 3. Let's go ahead and plug in our y value. So we have x minus 1. And then equals negative 1. Well, now we have x in this entire problem, so let's go ahead and solve for that variable. So distribute through your negative 3. So you've got 2x minus 3x plus 3 equals negative 1. Well, your next step is to combine your like terms. So we've got a 2x here and a negative 3x here. Well, that's going to give you negative 1x. Then we've got our plus 3 and equals negative 1. Next thing we got to do is solve for x. So we have to move over this 3. Since it's a plus 3, let's go ahead and subtract 3 on both sides. So we have negative 1x equals negative 4. Well, we're not finished yet because we still have that negative 1 in front of the x. So divide both sides by negative 1. X equals 4. So we found our first variable. Now let's go ahead and find our second. Well, we know our second equation is y equals x minus 1. Well, let's go ahead and plug that x value in for this x. So we'll have y equals 4 and then minus 1. And 4 minus 1 gives you 3. And then lastly, we just have to write our answer as an ordered pair, which we remember is our x, y. So 4, 3 is our answer to this solution. It's our solution to the system, So 4, 3 is our solution. All right, let's keep going. So there are a couple different, things as we practice with graphing, is that you can have infinitely many solutions or you can have no solution. So the next two examples, we're going to get one of the two, but I want you guys to be able to notice the difference. Well, if the numbers are the same value, as if 10 equals 10, as we have here, then that means it's true, and that it is infinitely many solutions. And if the numbers are not equal, we know that's false, because 10 does not equal 11, which gives you no solution. So let's go ahead and tackle example number 3. But the first thing I want to do is change this minus to a plus sign. So go ahead and change the first equation to y equals 4x plus 2. All right, so the first step is to look for that y equals or x equals, and we've got it. We've got our y equals 4x plus 2. So that means we're going to substitute it in for this y. So we've got 12x minus 3. Here comes the substitution. 4x plus 2, and then equals negative 6, back to our original equation. Well, let's go ahead and distribute that negative 3 through. So we'll have 12x minus 12x minus 6 equals negative 6. Well, let's go ahead and combine our like terms. So we've got our 12x here, and we got a negative 12x. Well, when we do that, these just cancel out. You get a 0x, which we know we don't have to write. So left over, we've got negative 6 equals negative 6. Well, that's true. So that means we have infinitely many solutions. It says solutions. There we go. So that's example number 3. Now let's tackle example number 4. So first step is to look for our y equals or our x equals, which we've got a y equals. Y equals 3x minus 11. Well, we're going to plug it in here for this y. So we're going to start with our parentheses of 3x minus 11. And then minus 3x equals negative 13. We plugged it in. Well, let's go ahead and just drop our parentheses. So we've got 3x minus 11 minus 3x equals negative 13. Well, we got to combine like terms. So we combine our 3x and our negative 3x. And what happens? They cancel out. So we've got negative 11 equals negative 13. Well, that is false. That is not true. So we have no solution. There we go. So please make sure you know the difference between infinitely many and no solution. If they're equal, it's true. We got infinitely many. And if it's different and false, then we've got no solution. But that's all I've got for today, so go ahead and check off your booklet 2 for substitution method. Do your worksheet. If you have questions, let us know. Don't hesitate to ask. Adios!